We're sisters, best friends, and authors on a mission to help you stoke your creative fire and live the life of your dreams. We believe that purpose fuels passion and that creativity is your secret weapon for mass construction. There's never been a better time to bless the world with your dream realized. You're listening to The Kate and Abby Show.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of The Kate and Abby Show. This is episode 22. Today, we're going to break down an interesting topic that I think you guys are going to get a lot out of, and that is how to talk about your work and what we say about our work, what types of words we use, especially when talking to ourselves.
Yeah, this is, I think, going to be an interesting topic to get into because a lot of people, a lot of writers, tend to kind of underestimate themselves at the very least, and at the very worst, tend to talk negatively about their works in progress, or at least like, I don't really know what I'm doing, I don't really know if it's good, all of that kind of, not really positive
Right.
speech.
Yeah, exactly. Like kind of one that I hear a lot is, oh, it's just...
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not just. And I know it can be kind of become so overused that it just becomes part of our vocabulary to be like, oh, it's just, it's just some, a little writing project I'm working on. It's not really anything. Like, I hate it when people say that because no, it's something that's
especially
valuable
if somebody
to you.
is asking you about it. Like,
Yeah.
And I think we're also going to cover that a little bit in this episode, is how to explain or describe your book to somebody who like asks you about it, like puts you on the spot and is like, what's your book about?
Yeah,
And
you know when these times are. It's like Thanksgiving, you're at like one of your parents' relatives' house or your spouse's relative's house, and it's like, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a writer, actually. Oh my gosh, what's your book about? And you're just like, I wasn't anticipating this question. And then you're just like, then you say something that you're like, oh, fumbling your way through it. And then all through dinner, you're just thinking about, why did I say that? Why did I say that?
Yeah, you're going back and editing what you would have said.
At least,
you could go do
it
do it again.
Yeah, I mean, do you do that? Like, after a conversation, sometimes I'll just be like, I should have said it this way. Why did I say it that way? I should have said it this way.
I'm like slowly becoming much better at like wording myself and
yeah, you're
arguing
super
a point.
articulate.
Yeah, I'm becoming more articulate. So the more articulate I become, the less I do that.
Yeah.
And I find that it's very satisfying because then you don't have to think back and think like, oh, I should have said something differently because you took the time to say exactly what you meant.
Yeah.
Usually if you say what you mean in the moment, you don't have to
like
regret
that.
it.
Yeah. I think too, like, just letting it be once it's happened. Like, don't be like revisiting it over and over again. Like, once the thing's happened, guess what? You can't change it. You can't alter it. Leave it the heck alone. Just let it go and move on to the next thing, because what it does is it sets you up for failure the next time, because you're like, oh, I thought about that so much and now I'm like even more nervous.
Yeah, exactly. So, let's start by talking about how to, or what do you want to talk about first? Like the self-talk or talking to others?
Let's talk about talking, how to describe your book, talk about your book to others, and then we'll end with how you talk to yourself about your work, because I feel like that's even more important psychologically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the things, I mean, I made a video a long time ago about how to explain your book, describe your book to people who ask you about it, who ask you what your book is about. And there are a few different things that you can do, I think, in reply to that. And it's kind of like goes on the basis of how much detail you want to give out, or like how much time you have. So if it's like small talk and the person just like randomly asks you and you don't want to like go into a full on synopsis,
Right.
or even give them a description of what it's about, you can kind of choose how much information you're going to give out about the book in this moment. One of the most one of the things that I fall back on all the time with describing my book to new people, especially if it's like a person I've never met before, like I'm just meeting them for the first time and they're like, oh, that's cool. What's your book about? I'm not going to like tell them specifically what it's about. Typically,
Right.
I'll tell them a few different things about it, being the genre and the theme of the book is usually like the two things that you can say quickly that don't like it gives the person a general idea of what the book is about, but you don't have to like go into a whole
Synopsis.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And some people recommend like, oh, write a blurb for your book and then like pull out your blurb on your phone and read it to the person. And I'm like, I would feel
feels
so uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah, I would feel uncomfortable doing that as well.
Especially if it's like small talk. And
yeah, it depends on the situation. Yeah, small talk, exactly. Because a lot of times it's just like, oh, so what's your book about? Like I said, Thanksgiving Day scenario. Are you going to pull out your phone and start reading?
Yeah, no.
You know, to your sister-in-law's boyfriend or to like your great aunt.
Right. You're not going to
You're just going to tell them real quick, oh, you know, it's a sci-fi thriller centering around two teenagers exploring the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
Not like, well, there's this girl and her name is Denise and the boy's name is Thomas and they live in Kansas. And then it's like, don't tell me that much.
Yeah.
I just am generally curious what it is you do. It's kind of like when, you know, someone asks like, what do you do for work? You're not like, well, when I get to work first thing in the morning, I typically, you know, sit down at my desk, then I put my stuff away, I go get my cup of coffee, and then I open up, you know, an Excel sheet.
Yeah.
No.
No one cares.
Don't tell me this. I am a secretary for XYZ Corporation. Cool.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of like that. Like, we want to know, but we don't want to know every detail.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's someone who's like, you know, hey, you're at a writing conference and you're talking to someone who's like, oh, hey, I'm really interested in like, what exactly is your book about?
Right.
For, you know, maybe they want to work on a collaboration with you, or maybe they want to do something with like, as far as like a branding type thing, and they want to know exactly what's in your book, then cool, that's the time to take out the phone blurb.
Right. Yeah,
if you want to do that.
Exactly. For people who really care, like you can tell they want to know some detail about your book. That's a good time for a blurb. But otherwise, I mean, like you said about the thriller example, or what I would tell people about 100 Days of Sunlight is it's a YA contemporary about getting back up when life knocks you down. And that pretty much like explains the whole thing.
Exactly.
Even though it doesn't. So
right, and it invites someone to like be like, ooh, that's intriguing. I want to know more.
Yeah.
When you tell someone what the whole story is about, they're like, oh, that was a good book. It only took 3 minutes to listen to.
Right,
you know?
exactly. And if you want to go a little bit more in depth and give a little bit more detail, then I would recommend giving like the hook. And then
So what would that be for 100 days?
Pretty much just the setup. So I would also tell some people, depending on who they were, it's a YA contemporary about a teenage girl who gets in a car accident and loses her eyesight for a while. And over the course of events in the book, she learns to get back up when life knocks you down, or she rediscovers, you know, her bravery and joy and life, stuff like that. That's like something very vague, but you include like the specific setup for the events. So like, or like in the case of your book, it would be like, you know, it's a YA thriller action adventure that centers around or YA, what is it? Sci-fi thriller, thriller about a young guy who like stumbles upon another dimension, and he has these extraordinary powers. And so you get like a little bit of this little taste of like what the specifics of the story are, plus the theme and the genre. And that's really like plenty for most people.
Right.
And I think a lot of authors tend to just over explain Like they don't do the blurb thing, but they end up giving more information than the blurb would even have because they go into the specifics.
Well, I've heard a lot of writers that I've asked this question that start out, and this is like, I'm happy to like listen to it. So I'm not saying this in like a bad way at all, but it's just a trend I've noticed that when you're talking to other people who aren't writers and who might not be as interested, that they start out with it's this girl and she's 20 and her name's this and she lives here.
It starts with
like,
oh my gosh.
If you're starting with it starts with it's not going to be condensed enough to hold the attention of most people, especially someone that you might want to potentially get them interested in reading your book. So one thing I've noticed is like when I've been asked this question before by people, I always say, it's a YA urban fantasy thriller.
Urban fantasy. That was the thing I was trying to remember.
Yeah, because I used to say sci-fi fantasy like all the time, which it is, but it's urban fantasy more accurately describes like both of those elements, even though it has sci-fi elements in it.
Right.
But urban fantasy gets someone's brain to what it is quicker.
Yeah.
So I just say it's an urban fantasy YA thriller. And most people are just like, cool. And they move on to the next topic.
Trying to figure out what that is.
They're not
cool.
like, but they're not like, they're like, well, yeah, but like, that's the genre, but what's the book about? So what I mean here is like, most people aren't like fishing for like, what exactly is the plot line?
Yeah.
They just are like, oh, cool, you're a writer. What genre, what is it?
Yeah. And most people who ask are like, they're asking out of a formality, like not to burst your bubble, but there's going to be a certain percentage of people who are just asking because that's the right thing to do. And they really do not care. And some of them will even be bracing themselves like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have asked. Because I don't know how long this reply is going to be.
Like, didn't you like do the skit thing in that video?
Yeah.
That was so funny. Guys, go watch that. Like, if you're listening to this, go to the YouTube video and we'll link it below. Because that was really funny. Like, the skit where it's like, oh, going on. And you're like, oh, no, how do I make them stop?
How do I make them stop talking?
Save me. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And so some people will just be asking because they're like, oh, you're a writer. Cool. What's your book about? And then like they realize after they ask that, like, oh, hopefully this isn't going to be a long explanation.
Yeah. So what I think most people are curious about, honestly, number one, it can be a formality. Number two, if they're really interested, they're most likely like, what are you writing? You could be writing a nonfiction book about dieting.
Yeah.
You could be writing a murder mystery. You could be writing a science fiction. They don't know what it is. So when you say, I'm a writer, now they kind of,
their brain... be writing a picture book for 1-year-olds.
Yeah, their brain kind of wants to answer the question of, oh, what kind of writing? What kind of writing? So not so much even what exact storyline, more like, you're a writer, what is it you're writing?
Right.
I write sci-fi romance. Cool. Now I can put those things together in their little file up on the shelf.
Right.
I've got that. Yeah. And then if they really want to know the storyline, most people I think will ask, what is the storyline or what is the story about actually? I think I've only had that question like once.
Yeah.
And it's usually by people like in the industry who are like, oh, for a business reason.
Right.
Not like, oh, I just, bumped into you in the grocery store. Can we go over your storyline?
Yeah. Like no one's going to ask that.
So concise, quick, what genre, and maybe like a tiny bit of extra. Because like that's exactly what you did when you said a YA contemporary romance, correct? Mm-hmm. Were those the three you used, or did you say YA contemporary?
Romance, but yes.
Okay.
Maybe I did say romance, not just now, but I would say that to people, YA contemporary romance. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you said like, it's a wholesome YA contemporary romance.
Yeah.
And then, okay, genre. Then about getting up when life knocks you down. Little bit about the storyline, little teaser. Right. So genre, storyline, teaser.
Yeah, exactly.
Is actually a really good formula.
Yeah.
So genre or genres and storyline, teaser.
Right. Yeah.
And
the
that's
theme.
kind of what you, right, theme.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that's kind of what it was the
Yeah,
theme.
well, it could be, so there's like several versions. That could be just the genre and...
Because the one
it
you
could
did...
be just the genre.
Right.
It could be the genre and the theme. Or it could be the genre, the hook of the premise, and the theme. So,
like the one you
depending on what
did,
you
the
wanna
example you did for my book was kind of just like something
the
that
genre
happens.
and the hook.
Genre and the hook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so genre...
Like it's an
Hook-
it's a YA
theme.
urban fantasy about a guy who can, is capable of these supernatural powers and stumbles upon an extra dimension where there are a bunch of people like him.
Right.
I haven't written one for you, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, something like that would be
it's
kinda
good to
rad.
write them ahead of time.
Yeah.
I think to write like a little blurb ahead of time and then like kind of just memorize it loosely.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, how did it go? But like, just kind of know it by heart casually.
Yeah. So that
And-
way, when you go to like a writer's conference, especially something like that, like for you writers out there who go to writing conferences, that's a good time to have that prepped, is because you're going to meet a lot of writers who are going to say, who are going to ask you, what's your book about? And then you have that. So you'll be having high volume of those questions, whereas normally you would maybe get this question only like once in a while.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So on to talking to yourself about your book.
Yeah.
What would be your top advice? Your advice for that?
My advice for that would be careful of what you're saying to yourself. Be mindful, actually, of what you're saying to yourself about your work. I think so many people are quick to judge their work, and there's a difference between critiquing and judging. A lot of people judge their work and they're like, oh yeah, those chapters are garbage. Oh yeah, my first draft is garbage. Oh yeah, my old writing is garbage. I've heard these things ad nauseum, and it's old. It gets old fast. And what it does is you're talking to yourself. You're telling your brain, hey, the thing you wrote is garbage. The thing you wrote is garbage. This is going into your subconscious. Your brain is taking these things and transmitting them to your subconscious.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, what's that movie with the little girl with the thoughts in her head and they like Inside Out?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
That Pixar film where like the thoughts are personified in little characters, and every time she thinks something, it's being projected on this screen in her mind.
Yeah.
Now, think about that reflects a true principle that you're imprinting that in your subconscious. What movie are we watching today? Oh, we're watching, so-and-so's writing is garbage, like we always watch every day. We've been just wearing this movie out.
Yeah.
That starts to cement that as true. Your brain starts to pick up on that as true. Like, yeah, my writing's not that good. Maybe you shouldn't even be doing this. Maybe you should think about getting a job. Who are you kidding? Look at that person has way better writing than you. Look at that published author. She's a real author. Unlike you, your writing is trash. Give up. It escalates into this. These are all things that a lot of writers I know have seriously struggled with it because it's all the self-talk and comparison. Social media a lot of times doesn't help. It amplifies this whole, doubt yourself. You see other people. Oh, look at they're doing that. I'm not as good. My writing's not great. Just shut up. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
What...
And turn it around, I think, because you can very easily flip that on its head and be like, okay, looking at other people. If they can do it, so can you. Like, that's honestly, I've always been kind of empowered by looking at other people's writing because I always think, well, if they can do it, so can I. Like, it's this, it's kind of a qualification, sort of. This feeling of being qualified because you see other people who aren't qualified in air quotes, that they end up writing really great stuff that you end up loving. So like all the authors that you love or writers in general, they might be on fanfiction.com, they might be on Wattpad, and nobody like gave them formal permission to, you're a good writer, you can put your work out there. and people will enjoy it because you're a good writer. Like, they had to stick their neck out too in order to put their work out there and hope that people would enjoy it. And the fact that you enjoy it proves that you can do it too.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's kind of empowering, I think, when you start looking at it from that perspective rather than like, oh, I can never be like them.
Exactly.
You know, because we all have the same equipment. We all have the same ability to use our creative faculties.
Yeah, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what, you have that. That's so right on. And also, you know, hey, try Googling famous authors who got rejected.
Yeah.
And your confidence is going to soar.
If rejections are disappointing you or disheartening you, just look at all the people.
Yeah, or even if it's not, maybe you're not even trying to get traditionally published, but you know, hey, if you're thinking like, oh, my writing's not good enough, well, look at all the publishers who told, you know, these, you know, X, Y, Z authors that
thought they were
you're not
lousy.
Good enough. Yeah, and
not
then
good
it became classics. I think like Stephen King got rejected a bunch of times. Last episode when Dave was here on the podcast and he talked about J.K. Rowling, how many rejections she got.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
It costs nothing to believe in yourself. It costs nothing to be passionate about what you do. And if you are passionate about what you do, just be passionate. And the thing is what you put in now is what's going to build your future. If you want to be a successful author, you need to start seeing yourself as a successful author right now, because that's what's going to create the successful author future you. Is what you're putting into your life right now, what you're putting into your writing right now. And believe me, all those thoughts and feelings and emotions translates into how you write. Because when you're insecure and not confident and talking yourself down, you're going to show up to your writing desk in a completely different headspace than if you're pumped up and motivated and believing in yourself and you're here to do the best you can. It's going to be a completely different experience.
Yeah, 100%.
So you need to be pump yourself up before you write. Pump yourself up. Listen to something motivational. There's tons of awesome motivational videos on YouTube. You can even type in motivation for specific things, like writing motivation, things like that. And you can find all kinds of amazing compilations of motivational speeches and things that will just get you like so stoked up. Or if it's books or podcasts, like choose what's good for you.
Yeah.
Choose your own adventure there. But it doesn't cost you anything to get yourself stoked up to write. If anything, it's going to help your writing.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about it in the long term. Like, you get yourself really excited to write and you're feeling confident in your writing. You're probably going to write much better than you would if you were feeling like down or insecure about your writing. In fact, you are going to write much better. Just do some experimenting with yourself there and you'll literally see the difference, because I've seen the difference in myself too. And if you have put your work out there and you have received positive feedback, whether that's in the form of comments on a fan fiction site or it's in the form of notes from your editor or reviews or book reviews if you have published books, find all of the positive feedback that really made you happy and collect it in one place and go and read some of it when you need to get pumped up. Like, I do that for myself. I do that with reviews from 100 Days of Sunlight. I will literally go sift through good reviews, sort by 5-star reviews, and I will read some of those reviews, and they get me really excited for my writing and feeling really good about my writing. Because here's the thing. You might be like, listening to this, like, oh, well, you know, you're going to also have, and I have on 100 Days of Sunlight, every book has this in the world, reviews that aren't 5-star, reviews that are people had problems with your book or they didn't like it so much. And, don't you have to read those too? No, you don't, and you shouldn't, because there's no such thing as a perfect story for everyone. Okay? No, you are never going to be able to write a book that literally everybody loves.
Right.
So why would you spend time reading the responses or reviews from people who it didn't click with them, or it wasn't their favorite book, or they just didn't love it? Like, instead, spend your time reading feedback and reviews from people who actually loved your book and it really touched them and inspired them and is valuable to them. And that is just really powerful, in my opinion. That's really powerful for me, and I would recommend it to any writer out there.
No, that's rad advice. Yeah, especially if you have if you're a published author, that's some of the best motivation you can have is amazing messages. And I know you've had we were reading an email someone sent you recently that was just so cool to see how your book impacted
personal
them.
letters, DMs. Those are like gold.
Exactly.
Even better than reviews, really, because they took the time to personally email you and let you know that your book really impacted them. And I think that's really important to remember that and let it be a positive thing. Don't let it freak you out like, oh, what if I can't write as good again? Don't start thinking that. Just let it be a response to the expression of your writing in general. Mm-hmm. And go forward thinking about all of your writing like that. And it will really improve your confidence.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's really rad advice. Well, I think we kind of encapsulated some pretty important principles.
Yeah, for sure.
Talk about your writing to other people in a way that's concise, short, sweet, gets the point across, and don't be afraid to talk about it. Figure out what you want to say about your book and nail it and share it. And when you're talking to yourself about your own writing, don't trash it. Don't say it's garbage. Don't say you're not a good writer. Stop doing that. Say some good stuff about it. Get pumped up. Read those positive reviews and emails. Get stoked up about it. Because guess what? Your book's going to be someone's favorite one day. That's a fact.
Truth.
We hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the show. If you want to support it, always feel free to go to
patreon.com/The Kate and Abby Show. We have all kinds of fun stuff over there for you to see behind the scenes stuff and get shout outs on the show. So check that out. Otherwise, another great way to support the podcast is to share it. So share it with a friend or through your podcast platform. Or if you're on YouTube, on Kate's YouTube, watching the video, share that as well. You can find that at youtube.com/KA Emmons.
Yeah. And go follow Abby's amazing YouTube channel, Writers Life Wednesday. Man, I think I know it by now.
Writers Life Wednesday,
youtube.com/Abby Emmons. Yeah, do it. We hope you guys enjoyed this one. Comment below and let us know what you thought. Tell us how great your writing is. I dare you.
Yes.
And we'll cheer you on hardcore. Till next time, my friends, stay stoked.
And rock on.